Hello, this is Vampire. I was having a pretty cool discussion with a friend of mine, and I thought that I would share it with you guys. He basically was bringing up Japanese swords versus Western swords. Now, me as a Japanese person, I'm very happy to hear, that a lot of people think Japanese swords are fantastic and great and everything. That does make me very proud and happy. But at the same time, some people may say Japanese swords are the best, by far the best, and I think that's kind of a ridiculous statement. Whenever you use the word the best, I think it needs to be taken with a grain of salt. If you say like the Japanese people historically have revered swords and they have tried their best to perfect swords, using the sword, and then also the craftsmanship, and they put in a lot of years and time and thought into it, that's fine. Japanese people are really into swords historically, and they've developed it to a very far level or whatever, or a high level. That's great too. But to say Japanese swords are the absolute best historically, they are the best swords ever made by humankind, I think is not cool, and I think is wrong actually, because the word best can be interpreted in so many different ways, So let's take a look at, like, let's say a knife, for example, all right? How do you want to focus on improving the knife? What do you want to focus on? What is the core essential to you? And that's going to differ from person to person, from culture to culture, And Japan is a very unique country in a sense where it's an island. Because it's an island, a lot of the stuff that they have received from the Chinese culture, a lot of the times it's from the Chinese culture, it stays in Japan uninterrupted, in a sense. Because over there in China, Korea, Mongolia, all these countries connected together, man, I mean, you're talking about war going on, people invading each other. So, fad of yesterday is no longer the fad of tomorrow. Things change big time. Things need to adapt quickly. It's a very harsh environment in that sense. Now, Japan has had its war, lots of its, own civil wars and stuff, but I mean, compared to countries coming in and stuff, the Civil War to me is kind of small. And also, so they receive, these awesome ideas and methods from the Chinese culture, and then Japan adds their own sprinkle. And Japan's a very abstract country. So look at the game of like Go was the best example I can give you guys. If you've ever seen that, it's just played with these black and white stones, and it's all about territorial. It's very abstract. Look at sushi. It's just a raw fish. That's it. You're talking about the freshest. Well, let's go to the max. So it's very abstract country. So their sword, the way that they tackle the blades, is the same idea. They went very abstract. Let's just focus on the steel. What on the metal itself. How can we, for slicing, primarily? Yeah, it's well balanced. Yeah, I could do other things and stuff, but I mean, that thing is for slicing the human body, all right? It has this slight curve, all this, the center is softer, and, all the stuff that they put in, all the thoughts, they focused on just the quality of that, right? And of course, there's cultural aspects of, just how it functions and how the person would carry it and things of that nature, but sure, there are exceptions like ninja people and other types of people that carry different kinds of swords, different types of. But a lot of it was very uniform. A lot of the Japanese swords are very quite uniform. There's a lot of different species, of course, of the katana sword and stuff, but a lot of them look the same, you know, and they just stuck on that one design, and they went to master that, you know. As a martial art, I would compare that to, like, let's say boxing. You know, boxers focus on the punching, and that's all they do all day long. They have awesome punching skills, you know. Now let's take a look at the Western swords. The Western swords, to me, is kind of like the Chinese, where the whole country is you know, of Europe, is a bunch of countries there, a bunch of kingdoms, lots of invasions, lots of wars and stuff going on. So they've had to evolve constantly. They've had to not evolve in just let's perfect one thing. They had to evolve in, whoa, these guys are using this kind of armor. To battle them, we have to change our weapon. We have to make it more as like a stabbing tool. Oh, these guys are using really, really thick armor, so let's knock them off the horse. So let's make it as heavy as possible, almost like, you know, the sword is like a baseball bat, you know. So they've had to change things a lot, you know. And if you look at their swords, it has a lot of multifunction, you know. It's not so much that, in my opinion, that they perfected one thing, like let's just focus on the steel or how it's, you know, tempered, or not so much in those areas. But to me, you know, and there are exceptions, you know, Damascus blades and stuff, considered very high quality. But overall, you look at a European sword, you know, and it has, like, let's say the pommel is designed so you could hold it a certain way. Maybe the blade, there's an area like Conan's Atlantean sword where you could actually grab it right there. You know, it would have a cross guard that's really huge, and it could use for blade catching. There's a hand protection stuff going on. There's a very innovative, you know, very innovative and multifunctional, you know, in that sense, in a combat aspect, not let's say for other areas, you know. So it's really, there's so much of the cultural aspect going on. A lot of the European swords just seem like it's purely for combat. The Japanese katana sword, it obviously is for combat, but you know, the tanto blade design is a little bit quite versatile in that sense. You look at the European sword, it seems like it's made for, some of the fencing stuff is purely for dueling, you know, purely for sport, or, you know, purely for combat. So, you know, and there's just so much to look at in that sense, and I would not say ever that a European sword is inferior to a Japanese sword. When I look at my knives, sure, I have some knives where the steel quality is very fantastic, you know. It's just, you sharpen it and you go, wow, you know, you take the time to sharpen it and you go, yeah, this is some really quality steel. And then there's other ones where the steel quality may not be as good, the handle material not that great compared to this other one that I'm talking about, but let's say, you know, it has the function-wise, you know, let's say for, you know, CQC, close quarters combat, this is going to work fantastic. Or like, let's say for survival situations, this can chop wood, this can make tinder, you know, lots of different functions there. So, you know, it's such a broad subject in that sense, you know, to say that one style is better than the other. You know, just same with my martial arts approach. I don't do that, you know. I'd rather appreciate each different style that there is